What's going on, guys? In today's tutorial I'm going to be covering how to set up a flame sensor with the Raspberry Pi. So the things that you'll need for this setup include a Raspberry Pi. It can be any model. In this case I'm using a Raspberry Pi Model 3. You're going to need 3 female to female jumper cables, a flame sensor with the associated integrated breakout board, and for testing purposes I have a candle and a lighter. So let's talk about this sensor in a little bit more detail. It's effectively an infrared sensor that's been sort of tuned to detect the presence of fire or flames. I've been reading a couple comments on this and I've done a bit of research, and apparently it's only good for short range detection. There's also another issue. Apparently if there's excessive daylight it'll trip up the sensor performance, so it's not very good for outdoor applications. So just something to keep in mind. You need sort of a more controlled environment to get accurate results from this sensor. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and set this up. So I'm going to start wiring this sensor here. As you can see, there are 3 pins: VCC, ground, and digital output. So I'm just going to plug in the red jumper cable here, and then brown will be our ground, and then for the signal pin I will use orange. So that's pretty much it on the sensor side of things. Let's go ahead and plug this up to the Raspberry Pi. So again, the VCC will be plugged into the 5-volt pin, so that's the topmost leftmost pin on the Pi. I'm going to plug the brown jumper cable into ground, so that's the 3rd pin on the top row. There we go. And finally, for our digital signal pin, I'm just going to select GPIO 21. So this is the rightmost pin on the top row. So that's pretty much it. That means the physical setup is done. So I'm gonna go ahead and power up the Pi so we can do a physical test to see this in operation. So I'm gonna plug power into the Raspberry Pi. And as you can see here, we are presented with this red LED, which means this breakout is getting power from the Raspberry Pi. So I'm gonna go ahead and light this candle, and the LED should light up, indicating that we have the sensor is operational. So I'm gonna do that. Oh, these gloves. It's okay. I actually have another lighter, which is easier to use. Alright, there we go. So I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there is a flame. So if I take this sensor here and point it to the candle here, you can see that the green LED has lit up. So let's do a rough distance check. I'm going to see if I can get this in frame, but I'm going to move the sensor away, and you can see that that's less than a foot, and we are already running into issues with detection here. I'd say that's roughly 6 inches before the reliability of the sensor breaks down. So another thing too that I forgot to mention here is this pot that you can adjust to sort of fine-tune the sensitivity. From factory you should be alright, but if you ever have problems detecting the flame super close, you can adjust this pot right here. So now that we know that the sensor is working, let's go ahead and go to the computer and create our Python script to interact with the sensor. Okay, so I've created this Python script here. If you've been following along in my other videos, you'll notice that the logic is very similar to the sound sensor and soil sensor videos, but I'll walk you through the code nonetheless. So on lines 1 through 3, I'm importing the necessary libraries here. I have the GPIO library and the time. And then on lines 5 through 8, this is where we set up our pin. So the GPIO 21 is the signal pin that we've set, and then this callback function here on line 10, whenever an event occurs, this is what happens. So we're just putting this flame detected message. And then 13 and 14, these lines are sort of the core of the script. So this is where it actually detects the events and then calls this callback function here. And then finally, this bottom piece, we just have a while loop, which is essentially an infinite loop, and we have this sleep for 1 second to reduce CPU load. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and see this in action. So I've already uploaded this to my Raspberry Pi, so all I need to do is type python flame.py, hit enter. Now it's running, so now I'm going to go kick off the flame. And there you go, guys. You can see that the sensor successfully detected the flame here. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial for today. As always, it's always appreciated if you comment, like, and subscribe. Stay tuned for upcoming videos, and peace. See you later, guys.